All right, sorry, but there's so I did some plants in here. You know, I try to let like some wild lettuce grow. You know, try to let other stuff grow. You know, and just that's bindweed. I hate that stuff, but it's so good at testing the strength. Let's see. Let's find out. Oh, you're not doing so hot. Oh, poor guy. It's probably my fault. I'm rough on my plants. Let's see. Do we have a good example here? Probably not here. Oh, we have one of the fava beans. So let's look at. Oh goodness. Let's look at this. And so these fava beans, I didn't give them anything. Just wanted them to. Sorry, there you go. Wanted them to grow these fava beans, and they are producing a little bit. It's been like really hot out here, then really cold, and it's been really hard on the plants. And so like, you know, but when the fava beans finish off, come on cat, I need to walk. When the fava beans finish off, then and they die back, I want the corn to be able to feed on the nitrogen. The only problem is that it's almost June 1st. Probably when you're watching this, it'll be at least June 1st. And, you know, I still don't have a dead fava plant. So I planted that corn a while ago. And so because of that, because I planted it a while ago, it's gonna probably start tasseling before the fava beans are dead. Now, it could surprise me. It could push to July before it starts to tassel. But the corn is already 2 months from planting, probably 14-day emergence because it was cold, and you know, I did soak it beforehand, so it would just start germinating beforehand. So, you know, I would say about probably 14 days for emergence because it was cold. It survived. Oh, this stuff survived a couple light freezes too. That's really important. And so I planted this stuff May 30th. And so that's still going. I planted this stuff. Oh, no, sorry. I would say like April 1st or 2nd I planted that. This is the stuff I planted May 30th. This stuff here survived quite a few frosts and really bad temperatures. And so I'm really proud of this stuff. And so this is a beautiful corn. I didn't know it. I didn't think it'd grow. I thought it all died, and lo and behold, it's here. So I was able to, you see how I cut the rows, right? That's what I want to do. I want to put a hard piece of metal right in there and like have it little tie outs, you know what I mean? Just so you can see of like high vis wire, right? And then when the corn gets tall enough though, you can differentiate it, right? You can start to tell what's corn. Like I can walk through here and be like, okay, corn, because I do it in planting stations. So it's a little bit like, that's not, sometimes they didn't quite make it, you know, pest pressures and plant pressures like this right here, there'd be one here, but this is all ragweed. So it just kind of like, it's done. That's right. And so, you know, by doing it like this, I'm allowing native plants to be here and go to seed, right? And also allowing my corn to grow. Now, obviously the yield is not going to be as good. And if I give it fertilizers and stuff, then the native plants are going to absolutely take over. I did that last year with my amaranth, and you know, the bindweed absolutely took over and killed all my amaranth. Well, it didn't kill my amaranth. It just it covered the light, and the grasshoppers, the baby grasshoppers, went in there and ate all my amaranth because it was so delicious. So like I planted this huge, well, not huge plot, but for, you know, a single cultivar, it's huge. For at least the amount of seed I'm doing, I want to expand more, but you know, why don't we all, you know? But anyways, so with what I have, this was a good plot, and it just all, you know, died. And so, but my mung beans, I just threw mung beans in there because I wanted the mung beans to die, and the mung beans lived, and they grew past the bindweed, and they were left alone. And so now I love mung beans. They're just really good. I got these nice Desi mung beans. And so should be a little bit more landracey, you know, a little bit more diverse genetics. Hopefully, they're definitely smaller, should be able to germinate a lot faster. And, you know, they're roughly that same size as my sorghum. And so that's the problem with this. The cat was going around it and messing with that. These will bend and break and get sucked up. And, you know, you really want, these ones are nice, but, you know, they get torn up. Just little fiberglass ones. I really want metal ones. I really believe in the electromagnetic farming or whatever it is, you know, where it excites so basically you have a metal rod. It conducts, supposed to, from the earth and from the sky, supposed to allow a center point for electricity in your ground, and it's supposed to help excite the microbes in the soil, you know, so it helps break down stuff faster and all that stuff. And so by having that, when I chop and drop every time I mow between the rows, then all that's going to do is help break this stuff down, and the roots, actually more the roots in the soil than anything. But yeah, there's some crazy blades that like create mulch really good, and it would just like, you just grow it all there and just like chop the whole thing down and mulch it before you plant. And then you have the hardwired poles in there that help the microbes in the soil. And then you just like, you know, put some wine cap spores down the walkways, so when you mulch it, it just leaves enough anyways. And so having native plants that are strong enough that leave a good mulch is good. But, you know, a lot of this stuff is like either fast growing or like broad leafed, and like another wild lettuce to do good. But, you know, coming over here and looking at the residue, now that's sorghum from last year. See, that persists. So obviously when it comes to like that sort of stuff, really good. But so wild lettuce, that's nice. And so, but a lot of stuff is, see that rye, really good chop and drop for that. This rye, it's just massive. I'm a true large, but I like an extra large glove. And so, you know, if my hand was a little bit, you know, and so sorry, kitty, way more yield here. But I did also grow, see, like a lot of these, a part of me is like, I should save these, you know what I mean? So let me, see, that one was already turning. You know, I would say, oh, this is the fastest stuff. And I guess it is the fastest stuff, you know. And so I probably should have saved that one a little bit and just select for the fastest ones, you know. But I don't know. I really want the taller ones. Say, cat's going through there, doing her job. It's important to have catnip around. You want to plant some catnip in an area that's a little bit more maintained. And all these baby grasshoppers hopping around. I see them. I don't know if you do. But rice. And so, you know, you got some in there that are a little faster. You know, you do. And so I guess I could always isolate them, but this is just commodity rye. It's not I wanted to see how well it would do more than anything. I could always chop and drop it. But like ones like that big one right there, you know what I mean? Nice huge seed head, you know what I mean? This isn't decent, you know, but there's some here that are just really nice, big seed heads, tall, you know what I mean? Just really important. So I don't know, I'll figure it out, you know what I mean? It'd be suck to waste it, but at the same time, you know, being able to chop and drop this and then plant summer squash here, right? Because rye is kind of used to this. Rye likes this kind of stuff. Now it's still more bluish green, silvery bluish green. Helicopter. See, and that one probably doesn't have any in there because it's not bending. But rye is pretty, it's like sunflowers. Sunflowers, like I planted desert sunflowers and let it go through some frosts and it popped right up. Not all of it. Some of it struggled. Some of it died. I soaked it before too. Before light freeze. A couple light freezes, I soaked it. You know? So I wanted to see what it would, if it would handle a freeze, even though it was desert genetics. And, you know, I guess we'll see how these produce. You know, I have a couple varieties in here. Native American and other varieties. These are multi-heads. That way they'll cross better. I want them to cross really well. I like out-crossing. But I also want them to be able to support themselves if I only have a few plants. And so multi-headed sunflowers are it for me. You know, yeah, the yield might be not as good, but also I'm not using fertilizers. And so it gives the plant more time to build better root system and build better leaves. And, you know, the fact that it's an indeterminate sunflower. So I really like indeterminate crops. And so, but yeah, so that's kind of, you know, by doing it like that, you know, have a mulching blade and putting nice tall ones up here made of metal that you can attach stuff to and put the string out. That way you always know where things are as it grows. And then by chopping here, that's not dookie, that's dirt, whatever. Well, from a lawnmower, just decomposed grass, but that stuff's great. You know, you want that. So anyways, so like, you know, as you're going through here, you can see it's high, and when you have stuff come up, and then also freeze the root area down here too. That way it can come out from the sides, and then that's important. That's important. And so it helps these out more. Now these were crowded until very recently. I just mowed these down. And also it gives the little grasshoppers something to munch on because they're freaking everywhere. They are everywhere. Again, bad, but it's good. It's good, but it's bad. It'll serve its purpose. And so, again, it was like this, you know, how it's hard to see. But here's corn right here. Here's the last row. I didn't mow this. I just didn't feel like I need to. I also got sunflowers there as well. These did really good. Now I planted cowpeas out here, you know what I mean? And they all died and got chopped back. But this really did good. So just having some legumes here, I chopped and dropped. Now cowpeas will leave nitrogen in the soil. And so even if they finish, you know, I can still, you know, so it still has competition. It still struggles. The other insects still have stuff to eat. It's still diverse. This is kind of like the edge of the rye and blending in, you know, I didn't know the rye seed went all the way out here. You know what I mean? I just kind of threw that out, you know. I didn't do that nice, neat rows. I plan on doing it nice, neat rows. I need to change my approach because this is really good, right? But if you want to do it on larger scale, you can't have it be rows like this because you use a push mower. You'd want to have a riding lawn mower and then eventually an ATV. And then you can just, you know, run an ATV. Like you ideally, you would want this row to be gone, but actually scoot that here and scoot that here. So you meet these two in the middle, You have a big wide lane here. You can drive your zero turn down. And, you know, that way you have your stuff. You just have one person on each side planting, you know, or have a machine do it. I don't know, whatever you got. If you have more space in between the rows, then you can have a machine, a little tractor come in there, maybe plant with that or whatever you want to do. The main premise is allowing that to happen because, you know, if I just planted this in the ground, like if it rained and I try to mound up some dirt a little bit by digging with a little wooden stick or whatever, right? If we're going old school, like, you know, really old school, And we're doing that, you know what I mean? Then I'd create little tiny mounds, just of weed-free mounds, and I would want to pluck out the weeds on it, right? And that would allow it to be like this, and then you would have more space in between it, you know? Sometimes they say 4 feet. I did 2 feet, roughly 2 feet on the space. You know, I eyeballed it. And so people have a method of how they want to do it and space it. Normally it's like this. You got a lot more space, but I did it like this. And so it just didn't come up. But you'd have more space in between, and then you can like plant pole variety stuff that comes up through here. But you have to understand, you know, you would mound it up, little mounds, you know, kind of just, you would want to elevate this a little bit, you know, and then you can come through and, you know, hack at the plants and stuff. But the more you hack with it, the more you risk damaging your crops. And so that's a greater yield risk, damaging your crops, than it is just letting this be. And so that's the method I'm finding to do really well, is doing this, because then you still give, again, the insects something to eat. You still give the insects something to eat. You still allow for other native plants to exist and refill the seed bank, because they are very good at filling the seed bank. That's what a lot of people underestimate, how long the natural seed bank is. What are you? I see a couple of them out. New insects. Yeah, I see new stuff every day out here. I really do. It's really a treat to be able to see all the diverse life out here. It's a little scary too. You never know if something's gonna bite you, but you know. And so, you know, just you know, like wild lettuce. This is important. Some medicine right here. This is a amazing medicine. And look how healthy it is and how well it's doing. Because I let seed go everywhere. Huge patch here, massive, just all wild lettuce. Oh, so nice. But you want to sprinkle it all over the place. You want it growing in spots to where, if it lands there, you know what I mean, like this. You know what I mean, right there. I'm not gonna mow this because I don't want to ruin these, right? I'll mow, and I guess this is a good example. You know what I mean, of how you would have close together. It's still kind of, you know, but you'd make it a little close together, because you know, you just want it stations to allow the roots to spread out, touch new things. You know, you want stuff that can persist in the soil year after year here. See how these are a lot smaller because they had a lot more harsher competition. You know, they had a lot of competition. You know, so also genetics, you know what I mean? So some of them just do way better than others. And so, but then there's also top growth and there's bottom growth too. So, I mean, this stuff is growing every day. You know, it just depends on how much nutrients it gets, how much sunlight it gets. That's one factor in it. But also, you know, okay, is that stuff more desert? Is it creating extremely long tap roots right now? Is that what it's focusing on? And is this more of the modern stuff? So it has less of a tap root and more upright growth? Who knows? Who knows? They're all different, you know? They're all different, and I did a massive mix. So who knows what I get? I don't even care. I mean, I can track what I got, you know? That's not an issue, but I really don't care. Because it's not about selling individual cultivars. It's about creating something that people can use as genetic material. That's the importance right there. This is genetic material. This is not replacing anything. This is to enhance. That's all this is. You know, people, so many millions and billions of humans, right? However the number is, depending on how far back you go, got this to this point. This stuff has been brought to this point now. And so, but everyone had different methods of doing it. And so I like to put this in very harsh methods because people don't like doing that, because they like having results. And doing it like this, you do not get good results, but you get strong plants. And so, and that's important, because if I can get my corn like this, you know, if I get it like this, you know, when I'm planting in extreme conditions, you know, this stuff, again, this stuff survived a couple light frosts already. So did that. So did this. These sunflowers survived a couple light frosts. I planted all this stuff a month early. A month early. I planted this. It's way older than it looks because it's had to survive and it's had to grow. It is, yeah, this is 2 months of growth, which doesn't look like that at all. But at the same time, it did take 2 weeks for it to emerge, so maybe 3 weeks. You know, it had to survive underground first before it emerged. I thought it died. You know, yeah, I was like, it's been 3 weeks, didn't see anything, and then all of a sudden I saw that right there popping up because I was walking in between here, and I'm like, whoa, look at that. I was like, okay. And it's nice to have the little coloration difference, you know, it really helps differentiate from that. And so, cat. And so this is all rice. This is all mochi rice. Upland mochi rice. So I'm giving this the best I can because I know I'm not going to have the same production as a paddy field. No way in heck. No way. So upland was the only way to go, and I figured I'm not going to get a big yield of it, so how can I enjoy this where it doesn't, because it's not going to replace corn or sorghum. It might equal amaranth if it does well enough. And so what's my use for this? You know what I mean? If I just have, it's not thick planted or densely planted. It's got some space to it. It has to be able to compete. So I just figured that mochi would be good. And so I got 5 different varieties of mochi rice from the United States Department of Agriculture. And all 5 of these varieties have the same exact, they all have the same exact flowering date, you know, so they all will go to seed. Their anthesis date is 77 days, 76 days. So it's all 76. So I think it's done in like 110 days, 115 days. And so probably up to 120 days because it's not getting the nutrients it needs. Has to rely on the sun. And so that's how long it's going to take, probably 120 days, which is good. I have plenty of time for it. And it's mochi rice. And so it's going to be exciting to see how well this does because it's already a niche category being upland rice, and it's already grown in bad conditions, but these are kind of how the mountains are grown. And so I think it'll be good. You know, some of the plants are similar, but a lot are different. You know, just mechanics. You know, I think, you know, growing in the mountains in Japan, it's exposed to maybe similar-ish conditions, you know, and mochi is one of those things that's prized, but not standard for eating every day. So I just figured that would be appropriate for the amount of space I have. I could have gotten, you know, regular grain rice, but I'll never compete with biospheres that are adapted for that. Like Japan has like, you know, 11% arable land, you know, so they need something that's a powerhouse. And there, because all the mountains is what, 73% mountains or 70% mountains, all the water goes down. So having mountain crops is important. And so I just figured that this would be the best chance of survival. And because it's mochi, it's special because there's only 5 that met my amylose criteria and met so these, I selected these for their amylose content, so how sticky they are. I selected these for its ability for lodge resistance, 20% or less on lodging. I would not accept anything. If I plant this and it says only 20% lodge or 10% lodge, I'm okay with that. If I see 30% that lodge, I don't want it. I don't want it lodging because it gets really windy at times, especially if I plant in a different state. It gets really windy out there. It knocks over fruit trees. It's really bad. And so I need stuff that can stand up, have a high lignin stalk. And then again, these will have the same maturity date, roughly. They're very, very close together. And so that's nice. And they're 5 separate Japanese land races. And so they're genetically diverse. And I even saw so in the seeds. Some of the seeds have a green husk, I have a purple husk, a red husk, you know, and then your brownish husk, and then mostly was that light brown, the paper husk. So that was really nice. And so, you know, it should be good, you know. And so this is kind of what I've been doing and what I've been thinking about. And you know, I've been making very many videos, you know. So, but this is just kind of what I've been doing, you know. I'm gone for 6 weeks and just came back to it. This is kind of, you know, before it just grew like that, you know, just I had to find the corn, and because this one I didn't put any stakes in, you know what I mean? These are just boundaries. I just did this here and this here to show me where I planted the sunflowers, you know. Of course, not all of it popped up. I killed a couple there on accident, but 2 rows going out. Yeah, so that's just what I do. It's my craziness, my crazy contribution to the world is this. You know, doing something that no one else really likes doing. It's pretty much what it is. People are too scared to do stuff like this. And the people that do stuff like this, I'm like, oh, I need to do it faster. You know what I mean? You know, it's good. It's good to have. It's good to have people involved, have grassroots movement, organic movement. You know, people all around the world saying, hey, we should do stuff like this. You know, it's good to see. It's good to see it. And so, yep, that's what's going on. You know, I like it. I think it likes me. It's good enough for me. She's would grow faster. They're rough condition, man. Rough condition. But, you know, some are doing better, you know. Like the one over there. Fantastic. You know, so there's some that are more predisposed, or maybe just have a little bit more favorable conditions. You know what I mean? Like having a somewhat hard life, and then being able to introduce that somewhat hard life to the next generation, versus having just like a horrid freaking life, you know, and just barely surviving, you know. And so, but the fact that this flower will help these flowers, which help those flowers, which may help the flowers over there. And the fact that these produce flowers all season long until frost means that it has multiple opportunities for the ones I just planted here that are going to come up. Different variety, actually. I did this one was something I can get publicly. The stuff I planted is stuff you cannot get publicly. And so as it grows up, these will first create seed that are cold adapted, desert varieties. I won't say cold adapted, but, you know, handled light frosts. That's why, you know, you see the leaves are a little bit messed up. I'm keeping that. That's fine. Next season I can breed on it. And so, and then I'll have the rare genetics that come up, and they will all cross as long as they survive. They just got to survive, you know. So it looks good. Like this. So that's kind of what it is, you know what I mean? Just keep trying, because one day could be, you know, 100 years from now, could be 20 years from now, could be next year, could be this year, could be, you know, never, you know, that you might have to do stuff like this, especially if you have a large field. Like if you had a couple acres and you're just trying to plant and you didn't want to sit here and till all of it and do all the nutrients and nitrogen, you could do something like this, and food is still food, you know. It's not the same yield. You're not going to get the same yield, but you'll be producing something at least, you know. But some of the cobs I've got last year were pretty dang big. I wish I could have showed you guys that a little bit more. And so they're really, really big. Now this stuff's just some 60-day stuff, but still, I'd say it's probably a month and a half old. That's what I'd give it, a month and a half. So, you know, really good, really proud of it. Good stuff. So that's it. It's kind of all I got. Take care.